Gacho? Well, hello. Lovely to see everyone.
Oh,
Today, as you know, is the formal beginning of our spring retreat, our annual spring retreat, of which this is the first. And so glad that you could be here with us to get that started. As you see, I gave myself my social distancing haircut last night. Not bad for a solo job. I always do it solo. It's easy for a Buddhist, you know, compared to a lot of people. I don't have to do the fancy part or the flip or cover the bald spot. The whole thing is the bald spot. So it's very easy to do. You see that? Today's theme is spring and fall. Which is appropriate for our members because we have some down there in New Zealand and Australia, isn't that right, where it is the fall? It just came to my mind, just right now, right? It's the fall, right, down there. Okay, so very appropriate. And Brazil, I have no idea. You got a little of both, I think, right? So, lovely. Today is dedicated to so many folks who have written me with health concerns about family and friends. Fortunately, the meta and the merit of what we're doing today has no end and covers everyone 1000%. Hello, Judy's dog, who just came into the picture. You're going to come sit with us today? Very good. All right. Well, with no further ado, I guess we will get started. And Sekishi, are you going to be here for our hot pokey pokey later? Okay, so the video is there for you. Do what you did last time, if you would. Okay, very good. If you've been here before, you know what to do. And if it's your first time, just follow along. Very good.
Maka hanya harimita shingyo. Kanji zaibo satsugyo jinhai ya haramita jisho ken goan kaiku doi saiku yakushari shi shiki fui kuku fui shiki shiki sokuze kuku sokuze shikizu sogyo shiki yakubunyo ze shari shi ze shohoku sofu shofu metsu fukufu jofu zofu genze koku Umu shikimu ju sogyo shikimu gen nibize shin nimu shiki shokomi sokuho mugen kainai shimu Ishiki kai mu mu myo yaku mu mu myo jinnai shi mu roshi yaku mu roshi jin mu kushu metsudo muchi yaku mu tokui musho toko bodai sata en hanya haramita koshin mu kege komu kuku onri isai tendo muso kugyo nehan sanze shobutsu e hanya haramita kotoku wa nokutara sanyaku sanmo daikochi hanya haramita zedai chinshu zedai myoshu Zemu Joshu, Zemu Toto, Shuno Joi, Saiku, Shinjitsu Fukoko, Setsu Hanya Haramita, Shusoku Setsu Shu, Watsu Gyate Gyate, Hara Gyate, Araso Gyate, Goji Soaka. Hanya Shingyo. The identity of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed west and east, while human faculties are both wise or dull. In the way there are no northern or southern ancestors. The subtle source shines clear in the light. The branching streams flow in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All spheres, every sense and feel, intermingle even as they shine alone, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places in expressions of their own. Sights differ primally in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves and the earth is dense. Eye and form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and root must go back to the source, both root and leaves have their own uses. Light is also darkness, but do not think of it as darkness. Darkness is light, do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own being, which is not different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute, as a box and its lid. The absolute meets a relative, like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this, simply perceive what is. Make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no farther. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen, those who would perceive this subtle matter. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now. In reciting the heart of the perfection of Great Wisdom Sutra and the identity of relative and absolute, we dedicate our sincere efforts to the successive generations of Buddhas and ancestors who transmitted the flame. Ibashi Butsu Dayosho, Shiki Butsu Dayosho, Bishafu Butsu Dayoshu, Kuruson Butsu Dayosho, Kunagon Muni Butsu Dayosho, Kasho Butsu Dayosho, Shakyamuni Butsu Dayosho, Makakasho Dayosho, Ananda Dayosho, Shonawashu Dayosho, Ubaki Kuta Dayosho, Daitaka Dayosho, Mishaka Dayosho, Bashumitsu Dayosho, Butsudanan Dayosho, Fudamita Dayosho, Bari Shiva Dayosho, Funayasha Dayosho, Anabote Dayosho, Kabimura Dayosho, Nagya Rajuna Dayosho, Anadaibai Dayosho, Raghurata Dayosho, Sogyanandai Dayosho, Kayashya Tai Dayosho, Kumorata Dayosho, Shayata Dayosho, Bashu Banzu Dayosho, Manura Dayosho, Kakuro Kuna Dayosho, Shishibodai Dayosho, Bashyashita Dayosho, Funyomitai Dayosho, Hanyatara Dayosho, Budai Daruma Dayosho, Taiso Eka Dayosho, Kanchi Sosan Dayosho, Dai Doshin Dayosho, Diamond Konin Dayosho, Daikani no Dayosho, Saigen Gyoshi Dayoso, Seki Toki San Dayosho, Yakusani Gen Dayosho, Ungan Donjo Dayosho, Tozan Ryokai Dayosho, Ungo Doyo Dayosho, Doan Dohi Dayosho, Doan Kanshi Dayosho, Ryozan Enkan Dayosho, Dayo Kyogen Dayosho, Tosu Ise Dayosho, Fuyo Dokai Dayosho, Tanken Shijun Yayosho, Choro Seiro Dayosho, Tendo Soko Kaku Dayosho, Secho Chikan Dayosho, Tendo Nyojo Dayosho, Ehe Dogen Dayosho, Koen Ejo Dayosho, Tetsugi Kai Dayosho, Keizan Jokin Dayosho, Kasan Joseki Dayosho, Taigen Soshin Dayosho, Baisan Monpon Dayosho, Jochu Tengin Dayosho, Sekiso Enchu Dayosho, Taigan Sobai Dayosho, Kenso Joshun Dayoso, Jisan Aikun Dayosho, Daichu Reijo Dayosho, Nano Ryokun Dayosho, Daiju Ryuzan Dayosho, Hogan Zenzatsu Dayosho, Ryozen Chosen Dayosho, Kishu Gensho Dayosho, Kigaimon O Dayosho, Kanchu Taisatsu Dayosho, Tenso Jonsetsu Dayosho, Kenkoku Kaisatsu Dayosho, Raiten Gensatsu Dayosho, Kengan Sensatsu Daiyosho, Hokoku Satsayu Daiyosho, Rote Shoshuku Daiyosho, Fuku Tatsuden Daiyosho, Kachu Jakuchu Daiyosho, Bunzan Korin Daiyosho, Daichu Bunki Daiyoshu, Chokobunge Daiyosho, Roshu Ezen Daiyosho, Reisai Amon Daiyosho, Tokuzui Tenrin Daiyosho, Shogaku Rinzui Daiyosho, Butsuzan Zumio Daiyosho, Bukan Mokoku Daiyosho, Butsuan Emyo Daiyosho, Suigaku Rempo Daiyosho, Gudo Wafu Daiyosho, and to all other honored ones throughout history, male and female honored ones whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled, and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha Prajna Paramita.
Zazen. Zazen? have a long kinhin. Kinhin, it's also fine to go outside, to take a breath, have some tea, or to walk kinhin. It's okay. If you can, okay? I'm going to walk on our porch here. We will now have a little talk followed by Zazen. Jacoden, we're going to have the verse to open and then close the sutras. By the way, everyone, during these talks, you can sit some Zazen, you can relax, you can have a cup of tea, you can ignore me completely. It's all good. One second. Let me. Close the big door a little bit. Okay. Lovely. When you're ready, Jack. Can't hear you, Jackie.
Sorry about that.
Take two.
The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Lovely. An incomparably nice recital by Jacoden. Welcome, everyone. Now, today, again, we're going to turn to reading Master Dogen and Shobogenzo. And sometimes people might ask, oh, that wild way that Dogen has, what does that have to do with what's really going on in the world? And then in this section, he's dancing with a bunch of old koans, some of which really are head scratchers. You might say, what does that have to do with my being stuck in the house here or worrying about where my rent is going to be paid? What a waste of time. What does that guy from back in the 13th century have anything to know about what's going on here in the 21st? And I'm going to tell you that there is nothing more relevant than what we're going to discuss today. Give me a chance to try to make you see that. We're going to be looking at Shobogenzo Shunju, spring and autumn. And it has to do a lot with heat and the cold. And the reference to heat and cold is to things that hurt, are hard, you see. How do we deal with that? My first question is, if it's called spring and cold, spring and autumn, shouldn't it be winter and summer? I was a little puzzled about that at first. That would seem more appropriate for heat and cold. But, I think even back then, the spring was a little earlier. It started a little earlier than our season now. But also even now, it's one day is hot, the next day is, I'm under a blanket here. So maybe it was like that. And, you know, Dogen was up in the mountains, which even makes it more extreme. So they really were, even in the springtime, dealing with heat and cold. But when I talk about these sections of Dogen, you know, I like to give away the punchline at the start, kind of a spoiler. I'm sorry. I like to tell you what I think is the point about what we're going to read before we read it. I don't like it to kind of, you know, be a mystery, and maybe that makes me a lousy Zen teacher. I'm sorry, but I give it away, you know, or at least what I think is the punchline. So I want everyone to ask me, you know, okay, what's the point? Go ahead, 1, 2, 3. What's the point? Right, okay, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. I think Master Dogen is dealing with things that are hard, painful. The cold, the great cold and the terrible heat. But this is also a symbol for all the things in life that give us pain, that make us suffer, that we don't like. And we've got a few of those in life these days. And his vision here too is that these are not things we should escape from by running away. This is something that we realize and escape from by not escaping at all and realizing what they truly are to a Buddha's eye. So a lot of what we're going to read here is actually Master Dogen being critical to more, he likes some people more than others, but of other teachers' interpretations of this koan. And he's going to say that, for example, some people got it right and some people got it a little right, but let me, Dogen, offer you another way to look at this. Now, what does it have to do with? Every time you come here, you get the same thing. I'm sorry, I'm always selling you the same meal. It's the relative and the absolute, of course. You know, we live in a world of separation and life and death and spring and summer and passing time and things we like and things we don't like, and me and you, and sometimes we get along and sometimes we don't, right? It's a world of separation, a world of things that please us and a lot of things that don't please us, a world of friction when separate things bump into each other, right? But then there's the absolute. What Buddhists know, when we drop all the separation from mind, as we do in Zazen, of course, you know, and then we reach a place that's separate, right? Separate from here, where there is no separation and there is no me who's separate from you, and there is no coming and going in life and death. It's all just this peace, this wholeness, right? Because we drop from mind all the separation. And it's just a nice, whole, peaceful place away from this messy world, right? Dogen says, no. There are two faces of a no-sided coin, as I like to say. This complex world is the wholeness, is the light that shines through. It's very similar to the talk I gave last time. You always get the same thing here. On Canon was talking about, we were talking about Shobo Genzo Canon, and Dogen's vision of compassion is that Canon is compassionate because it leaves nothing out. We think that compassion is to rescue people from the ugly things and the terrible things. No. Canon's light shows in the wholeness that it's all swept in. The things we fear, the things that we worry about, the things from the past that make us cry, they are the wholeness. They are the light, you see. Okay, and that's what we're going to see here. Now, it starts with a famous koan by Dongshan. Dongshan is big to Dogen because he's big in the Soto lineage, because he's the toe of Soto. The So probably the scholars are now thinking refers to the sixth ancestor, Hui Nong. But the To is Tozan, or the Chinese pronunciation of Dongshan. So of course, we gotta like Dongshan, right? He's our big guy. It's a Sanskrit word, the big kahuna. So we gotta like the guy. And we do. And this is a brilliant koan. It begins like this. Great Master Tozan Gohon, Dongshan, the story goes, is asked by a monk, when cold or heat come, how are we to avoid them? When all the sucky things in life come, how do we get away from them? The master says, why do you not go to the place without cold and heat, without opposites and frictions, without things to suck and not suck? Suck and not suck. Oh, I'm sorry. That's another Sanskrit term. I'm sorry. The monk says, what is the place without cold and heat? The master says, when it's cold, kill the akarya. That's actually a real Sanskrit word. With cold. Another translation I sometimes say is, let it be cold, cold, cold. And when it's hot, let it be hot, hot, hot. Go right into the hot, be the hot. When you have pain, go right into the pain. When you have some sadness, go be sad. And there you will find your place without pain, without sadness. How? For Dogen, the absolute and relative, as we're going to see, are not separate. They swirl and inter-identify. They're not two. They're the same. When you see one, you see the other. It's like a dance where there's not two separate dancers, but it's just one great dance. One is the other. And this is what Dogen is about to say. Many Buddhist ancestors of the past and present in the Western heavens, India, and the Eastern lands, China, have seen this story as their real features, their real essence, the real deal. That being so, we should clarify in detail the monk's question. When cold or heat comes, how are we to avoid them? That means the study in experience, and this means here, study in experience means you really got to taste this. You really got to feel this. It's not just up here. It's like a dance. You don't think about dance. You got to not see a dance. You got to dance this dance. You got to know this. And that's part of why we're here today. That's Zazen, is the way we know this. And then we get up in life and we make this real. We dance it. So it's not just an intellectual idea. This means the study in experience of the very moment in which cold has come and the very moment in which heat has come. Both the totality of cold and the totality of heat in this cold and heat are cold and heat themselves. Now, Dogen's playing his word jazz here. But he's saying it's all the real deal, man. It's all this wholeness right before your eyes. When it's cold, it's cold. When we're worried about getting sick, as many people are these days, we're worried. When we're smiling, it's a real smile. When we're crying, it's a real tear. It's the whole thing right here. When the sadness comes, that's the sadness. When the smile comes, that's the smile. And it is this. It's not something you run away from. It's right there in front of your eyes. It's your eyes themselves, like that. Okay. Because they are cold and heat themselves, when they have come from the very summit of cold and heat themselves, and they manifest from the very eye of cold and heat themselves. The whole universe, the wholeness is cold. The whole universe is heat. When it's a time of heat, it's all the universe being hot. When it's a time of sickness, it's all the universe a time of sickness. When you sneeze or cough, it's the whole universe sneezing and coughing. You may not feel that way, but it is. And they are manifest from the very eye of cold and heat themselves. This eye is the place without cold and heat. In these very eyes is the place without cold and heat. The place without cold and heat, the place without birth and death, the place without you and me, the place without war and peace, the place without friction or non-friction is this world of sickness and health and war and peace and me and you. They're not apart, and they never were. But it's hard to see. So Master Dogen is now going to approach a bunch of teachers. I haven't included all of them. I've included a sample, and we may not get to all of them. Some he likes more than others. And what is his criticism? Some make too solid a division between the relative and the absolute. Samsara, this chaotic, mixed up world, and nirvana, this world of chaos and strife and sickness, and this world of peace and timelessness. And he says, don't be so separate. It's not something you cut with a knife. It's something you mix together in the mixing bowl, you see. They all swirl together. And when you taste one, you taste the other. And some teachers, he's going to say, are even too formulaic about it, which he might not like me either for this reason. I don't know. He might say, Jundo, you give it away. Don't give it away like that. You explain too much. Okay, so Dogen continues. The founding ancestors, Dongshan's words, when it is cold, kill the Akarya with cold. When it is hot, kill yourself with heat, are about the situation just at the moment of having arrived. When it is cold, the expression is killing with cold. But when it is hot, killing with heat need not always be the expression. Dogen had a way with words. I can only give you my feeling about this. When it's cold, all we can say is cold, and it is everything. It's the universe shouting cold. And when it's hot, you can even drop away the word hot and cold, and it's just the same. It's just the same. The place without words, the place without anything to say, is the same world. When cold comes, cold is the only thing. And when heat comes, heat is the only word. The whole universe is shouting hot. The whole universe is shouting cold. And the whole universe is silent all at once. The whole world is shouting death. The whole world is shouting sickness. The whole world is shouting life. The whole world is shouting health. And the whole world has no need to say a thing. And it's all the same expression. Cold is utterly cold, and heat is utterly hot. Even if you try millions of times to avoid cold and heat, it is like trying to put a tail where the head is. You've got it backwards. You're upside down. So then he approaches a koan, a master's response to the koan. Zen Master Join Kobuku says, some among the Sangha interpret this as follows. The monk's question has fallen into the relative already, but Dongshan's answer returns to the absolute. Interpretations like this not only blaspheme the ancient saints, but also daunt the perpetrators themselves. They don't got it, is what he's saying. A jewel tower is a nest for a kingfisher, but a golden palace offers no shelter to a mandarin duck. Sometimes these old Chinese fellows had a way of saying things, but I believe it means, what is it? Pearls before swine. A jewel is a jewel to someone who can appreciate it, and it's a waste of space to someone who foolishly can't see it like that. So don't be mandarin ducks, folks. Be kingfishers. All right. But Dogen comments, if the Buddha Dharma were transmitted and received on the basis of limited considerations of relative versus the absolute, how could it have reached the present day? Wild kittens and barnyard bumpkins, he doesn't mean that as a compliment. Wild kittens and barnyard bumpkins who have never explored Dongshan's inner sanctum, they don't got it. People who have not walked the threshold of the truth of the Buddha Dharma mistakenly assert that Dongshan teaches people with his 5 positions of the relative and absolute. We should not see or hear it. We should just investigate the fact that the founding ancestor possesses the right Dharma treasury. Dongshan is famous for teaching the relative and the absolute, and he had this formula kind of attributed to him that's very popular, and is kind of a way to look at this. What is it? Sometimes you have, I'm going to make it very simple. Sometimes you have just absolute. Sometimes you just see relative. Sometimes you see a little relative, but a lot of absolute. Sometimes you see a lot of absolute, but a little relative. Which ones am I missing? Sometimes it's the relative and the absolute are kind of together, and other times it's like that. Dogen said, don't be so formulaic. They're swirling, they're dancing, it's a great game of one being and playing the other. Dogen did not reject the relative and absolute. He saw it in spades. He saw it in everything, even the things that we think are hiding the absolute, he said are revealing the absolute. We think the war and pain of the world, the things we don't like, the ugliness, are hiding the truth, are hiding them. He said they're revealing them to us. Look closely, it's right there. Death itself, sickness itself, is the wholeness beyond life and death and sickness and health, you see. Like that. Next he quotes Hongzhi, who's another big guy for us Soto guys. Hongzhi is maybe the source of silent illumination in Shikantaza. We highly respect him, so Dogen is not going to be critical of Hongzhi too much, I don't think. Hongzhi said, this episode, if we discuss it, is like a game of Go between 2 players. Now, I got to explain that. You know the game of Go? It's like Chinese, it's like, they played in Japan and Korea mostly. It's like the game of Othello, if you know that, or checkers, to the 9th power. I was looking today that a chessboard has 61 spaces, something like that, but a Go board has 361 possible 361 spaces and more possible combinations. This blew my mind when I heard it, but mathematicians say it's true. There are more possible combinations in Go, get this, than there are atoms in the known universe. I didn't believe it too when I heard it. It is a fact. there are more possible combinations of these 361 spaces than atoms in the known universe. And Dogen's point, and so it blows chess away in complexity. And Dogen's point in here is you think it's a game of win-lose. Me, my side, the opponent. No, 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 no. It's a dance where the opponent and the player, the other player, are one. Win and lose are the game. It's not something you divide the board. The board in its complexity and swirling is the wholeness, you see. When you think you're winning or losing, or it's me versus you, it's the whole game. And it's not a dead thing. A game is an activity. It's an action. This world is an active game ongoing, in which you and me, the different players, are the game. And our win and lose is the game board. You got it? He's not seeing separation. He's seeing the whole, I can only think of a Yiddish word. The whole schmear, as my grandmother would say. I forget, the whole thing. Oh, we got our Mexican friends here. The whole enchilada, I sometimes say. He saw the whole activity. Okay. Now, where were we? The game of Go. Hangzhou. This episode, if we discuss it, is like a game of Go between two players. If you do not respond to my move, I will fool you completely. If we experience it like this, we will begin to understand Dongshan's intentions. The game is constant responses, back and forth, but there's no back. It's one great response, something like that. And Dogen comments, not denying the game of Go for the present, how are there two players? What two players? The game of Go is one player and an opponent meeting each other. Even so, we should mindfully consider and we should physically master the state now expressed by Hangzhou as, you do not respond to my move. You do not respond to my move says you can never be me. Something like, of course there are two players, but there's not two players. And of course there's win and lose, but there's not win and lose. It's just a game. It's just the whole game. And sometimes the game is mud, and sometimes the game is you win jewels, something like that. So then it closes. In mud, there is mud that covers us from head to toe. In a pearl, there is a pearl. When it shines, it illuminates others and illuminates itself. But Master Dogen saw everything as the pearl, even the mud. Even the things in life we think are ugly, he saw as a jewel that's shining. Right now in the news, there are some things that we do not consider particularly welcome and shining jewels, right? We're trying to get away from these things, to escape them like the heat and cold. And hopefully someday we will. You know, Dogen's not saying just invite in, you know. Dogen also had special ceremonies in the monastery. When it was cold, they'd light a fire. They had a special ceremony to light the stove. It's cold. And then they'd have another ceremony. It's, you know, in the summer, they turn the stove off. They'd put extra robes because it's cold. He's not saying that, oh, when it's cold, you know, just tough it out, man. Go to that place beyond hot and cold and just freeze your bejesus off. No, he would put on robes and he'd heat the heater, just like we do here. But he's saying also know the place where even the things we don't like are shining jewels. Even this virus, you may have heard of that, is a shining jewel. Even some of the haircuts that some of you are giving yourselves, oh boy. No, there's no hope for that. Sorry. No, okay, they're shining jewels. Shining jewels. Okay. Now, we may not get to all of these. Let me just, oh, this next one's a nice one. Usually, people talk about the relative and absolute being interidentical by saying something like, it's like snow in a silver ball, in a silver bowl. In other words, two separate things, but they blend together and they're actually one. Or it's like a crane in the fog, a white crane in the fog. The crane is there, but you can't see it. Or there's a Nagarjuna put a needle in the water. The needle represented the things of this world, and he dropped it in the water, and the needle vanished. So you could say, oh yes, the needle is there, but we can't see it. And they're trying to get the model of how the relative and absolute comes together. And one is that it's like a pearl rolling in a silver bowl. You see, they're two things, but they're one. And Dogen is saying, oh, you think that the samsara, this world of crap, oops, sorry, pardon my French, this world of difficult stuff is the absolute. I understand you. But he's saying, no, no, no. Understand that the absolute is come to life as this complex world. It's not that we have to see this world of complexity and go, oh, I want to get out of here. I want to get to the place, peaceful place. He's saying, you got it backwards, man. It goes both ways. This world of life and death and sickness and health is the absolute alive. You better be grateful for it because it's your life. We're alive because of this. If the absolute had just stayed the absolute, it's the most boring place in the world. There's nothing there. It's the simplest of simple, which means basically it's empty. That's why we call it emptiness. But it has sprung to life as all this complexity. So it's not just that, as you'll see, the silver ball is rolling in the bowl. It's that the bowl is rolling around the silver ball. Let's get to this. You'll see what he's saying. So Zen Master Engo says, a bowl rolls around the pearl, and the pearl rolls around the bowl. The absolute in the relative in the absolute. And then he gives a couple of other examples that I believe say basically the same thing. An antelope carrying its horns, there is no trace. There's like an antelope in the forest, but it's there, but you can't see it. Something like that. It's long. The separate thing disappears in emptiness. Or the hounds circling the forest and they don't know where to find it. And Dogen says basically, he says not bad here, a little too formulaic, but it's not bad. So Dogen comments, the present expression, a bowl rolls around the pearl, is unprecedented. Wonderful. It's not just the pearl is rolling around the ball of emptiness. It's that the emptiness is come to life in the rolling pearl. And inimitable, which I forgot to look up, but I think that it's been a while since I took the SATs. It was on there. My son's studying for it now, so I should know this, but it's a good thing, right? Inimitable. It's right. Okay. It has rarely been heard in eternity. I think he likes it. Hitherto, people have spoken only as if the pearl rolling in the bowl were ceaseless. The antelope is now holding up its horns in the emptiness, and the forest is now circling the hounds. It's not just that samsara is the absolute and washes away in the wholeness. It's that the wholeness is swirling and dancing as this world of complexity, including the parts we don't like. Okay, just a little more. I'm not going to get to all of this. Let me think of one here. Master Shutaku says, that's the next one, amid the relative exists the absolute, amid the absolute the relative. Thousands of centuries floating downstream in the human world. How many times I have hoped to return. Dogen doesn't like that. Where are you going? He's going to say, where are you trying to return, buddy? Where are you trying to get to, but where you are? How many times I have hoped to return, but to return has been impossible. Before my gate, as ever, weeds of ignorance and distraction and greed and anger, weeds are growing in abundance. I can't see the absolute. I can't get back there. I'm like Dorothy trying to get home. And Master Dogen says, Dorothy, you always are home. You don't see this world is that you think of. Kansas is Oz. Okay? Oz is Kansas. The guys on the farm, Dorothy's farm, are the lion, the scarecrow, and the Tin Man. You see, it's not, Oz is not a separate place. Absolute is this world of all our problems, including being out of a job, or these days working too hard and taking your life in your hands just to go to the store. Welcome to the Pure Land. Wow, I thought the Pure Land was going to look like rainbows with Buddhas sitting on golden thrones and stars in the sky. And Dogen says, it does. Huh? Me sitting on the couch or taking my life in my hands just to get a haircut? I don't recommend it, but I feel sorry for the barbers. It's such a complicated world. On the one hand, we're afraid to get a haircut, but on the other hand, the poor barbers are out of a job. How do you resolve this? And Dogen says, oh, this world is terrible. This world is life. This world is beyond words. So Dogen comments on this. He cannot help mentioning the absolute versus the relative. And yet he's not completely wrong. Not denying he has picked up something. He says something like, in the middle of the relative exists. In other words, he says it's okay, but it's not a place to return to. I got a couple of minutes. Let me see. Okay, so then there's one at the end. Zen Master Kazan Buto says, Dongshan spoke of the place without cold and heat. Numerous Zen people have lost their way there. When it is cold, I get in front of a fire. When it is hot, I employ means of keeping cool. All my life, I am able to avoid and escape cold and heat. And this guy, and Dogen says, you got it wrong too. You just think that Dongshan is talking about actually getting away from the cold and heat, like, oh, when you're cold, turn up the thermostat. And when you're hot, open a window. And Dogen said, this is not something you escape like that. So Dogen's comment, his words are like those of a small child. Even so, in all my life, I am able to avoid and escape cold and heat. There may be a hint of future mature realization. Maybe he'll get it someday. In this case, all my life means with my whole life. And escaping cold and heat means getting free of cold and heat. Dogen was kind of an existentialist, man. He said, you get free of it by jumping right in. When I was in the hospital, all I can say is I had tremendous pain. Tremendous pain. I felt like a horse kicked me in the chest. I had a big stomach operation. And I felt for like several days. I don't even remember how long. Like a horse and a mule kicked me from both sides. All I can say is the drugs they give you here in Japan are not very strong. And I just went to a place at the center of all that and gritted my teeth and waited till I came out the other side. But, I have felt paradise in there somehow. I can't explain it to you. In the worst pain of the pain, there was like, wow, the most lovely place. Maybe it was just the endorphins, the morphine in my brain, releasing or something like that. I don't know. But in the worst time, there was the best somehow. They say that the Buddha, when he was really, really old, they didn't even have painkillers back then. He went into a really, really, really deep meditation because he was so old, he was feeling pain. And he knew it too. There's a time we were sitting shikantaza, and when there was such physical pain, I went to a very, very deep place. Very, very, very deep, where the pain was there, but it was not. And it's possible to know that. Anyway, in conclusion, let me go through this quick. In conclusion, although masters from many districts and in many ages have devoted themselves to flapping their lips like this, like I'm flapping my lips right now, me, offering their eulogies to the ancients, they have never glimpsed the periphery of the founding ancestor Dongshan. Dogen was never one for understatement. In other words, he was saying nobody quite got it like Dongshan. The reason is asked is they do not know what cold and heat are in the everyday life of a Buddhist ancestor. And so they randomly speak, for example, of employing means of keeping cool and getting in front of the fire or opening a window or turning up the thermostat. It is especially pitiful for you, that guy we just quoted, though in the vicinity of venerable ancestors, you have not heard what cold and heat means. We should regret that the ancestral master's truth has died out. Knowing the form and stages of this cold and heat, having passed instantaneously through periods of cold and heat, and having utilized cold and heat, we should praise over again with eulogies of the ancients and discussions of the ancients the truth that the founding ancestor Dongshan has taught. Hallelujah! Praise Dongshan. Dogen laid it on thick. Okay, let's admit it. He's just trying to say that Dongshan got it, and Dogen, am singing his praises. Until we are at that level, the best thing for us is to know our own faults. None of us can ever really get this, but we're doing our best. Do not misunderstand that cold and heat in the Buddhist truth are the same as the cold and heat of stupid fellows. Just be diligent and practice at once. Okay. Try to do this dance and realize that this world of complexity is not only what it seems, and there's this other wonderful way to see it, yet it's always going to be this complex place as long as we're alive, because our life is the complexity. Our life is the coming and going and birth and death and sickness and health and win and lose. You cannot play Go, the game of Go, without win and lose. What kind of game would it be? And yet it is the wonderful game board cleared away. There is no win and lose. It's all balances, I guess. It's all me and you playing. Okay, I should shut up now. Now, Dogen has a lovely way of ending this. Preached to the assembly in 1244, and he very rarely he adds something after that. He added a little comment. Though there are many horns in the herd, one kirin is enough. Now, he's not talking about the beer, though actually he is. If you look on a can of kirin beer, the Japanese beer, there is this mythical, wonderful creature called the kirin that the beer is named for. So he's not saying that after you're horny, have a kirin. That is not what he's saying here. He's saying that there's a lot of people who kind of, they got it so, but then there's this incredible creature every once in a while. What he's saying is to have just one outstanding student is enough. Fortunately, I have nothing but kirins here, so I'm very, very fortunate. And I know this all went to your hearts. Now, we got a couple of minutes, and I love to use this new technology, hint to especially my priests here. Any question? Raise your hand. Do you have a question? Turn your mic on. Oh, Sekishi. Good. What's your question? Sekishi usually has a comment, not a question, by the way.
See, now you used your Zen powers to read my mind. Well, I did have a comment, you're correct. And it was a little recollection of when I was learning to play the game of Go. The first time I played with a fairly strong player, it was clear 20 moves in that I was losing badly. And this player offered, at some point I resigned the game, and this player offered to go backwards through the game and review each move and different ways it could have gone. And our 20-minute game was followed by I don't know, my recollection is it was 3 or 4 hours worth of teaching. And it's part of this concept in Go of a teaching ladder, that you teach the people that you play with who are not as good as you. You lift them up. And that ultimately the goal, yes, there is winning and losing, but ultimately the goal of playing Go is to play a beautiful game. And a beautiful game is only possible when two players make it beautiful together. And I don't know, I think there's something about that, right? Like, we, in this world of life and death, that we want to, we make an effort to help all beings, to create art, to do beautiful things, to make a beautiful game. And I don't know, I guess that's it. That's the totality of my comment. But make a beautiful game, everyone. Help all beings.
I'm like Dogen. Now I have to comment on his comment, you see. Now, I had a friend who here in Japan who is actually a Go champion. And I mean, world ranked Go champion. And I asked him once about this, what I don't understand the game. And he said, I don't either. I just feel it. He just felt it, what he was supposed to do. He just saw it on the board. And surprisingly, he was a master Go. He could bring out this tremendous beauty and balance on the board. His life was kind of a mess. I don't think I'm naming any names, so I don't have to say this, but he couldn't do it in his own life. He was kind of like Bobby Fischer, this wonderful chess player, but in his personal life, it was a kind of chaos. And, but he said, this Dogen's wisdom about the relative and absolute and all, he's saying, you have to feel it too. And that's why we practice Zazen. And that's why we do all our practice. So you feel it and you see it with your own eyes, not just up here like a formula, like Dongshan's 5 ranks, not just an idea. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's close the sutras, Jakuden, incomparably.
May the merits of these teachings penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha's way.
Okay.
All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha Prajna Paramita.
Lovely. Now, this is the time when we have our very short Zazen. I like to remind people that we're sitting Zazen long. Sometimes you sit Zazen for weeks, but Zazen is never a matter of long or short. Part of being in Zazen is to drop all measures. So now we sit very short Zazen. It could be an atom. It could be like that, if I wanted it, if we wanted it to be, but it's short. But please sit short beyond long and short. Okay, we're going to have a short sitting. Just, you can sit where you are if you want. Okay, I have to briefly explain what comes next to our first. I think we have some first timers here. We're going to dance. And is this a traditional part of Zazenkai? Well, in a sense, yes. A dance is a ceremony, and a ceremony is a dance. Of course, they did not dance calypso. This is not calypso, actually. It's kind of a Caribbean salsa-like thing, I believe. It's by Arrow. It's called, very fittingly, Hot, Hot, Hot. To all of you who say, I can't dance, you get up there and dance with the rest of us. You get up there right now and you shake your you know what. All right, let's go. Okay. We're also testing new technology. We should have amazing sound quality today on this. I'm embarrassed to say I'm from Miami. I would be, it would be a shame for anyone from Miami to dance like that. I'm also very glad I didn't pick the 7-minute version. Okay, I hope everybody's still with us. Is everybody okay? Good, good. Everybody's still here. We didn't lose anyone. All right. Zazen. will have a long kinhin. We will now recite the metaverses, followed by Zazen. I see, Sekishi, we've been joined by our first fully automated Buddha down there. You'll have to explain to me what that is sometime. But welcome, Buddhatron 1000. Good to have you here. After that dance, boy, it really is hot, hot, hot. I'm now the Zen master from Genjo Koan who has to fan himself. Ba-dum-bum. You get it? Little Dogen joke there. Okay. I also forgot to turn the sound down, and I live in a very conservative farming community. And my neighbor, who's a lovely old gentleman, and his wife are within hearing distance. I sometimes wonder what they think is going on in here. But I will offer metta to them now as a compensation for whatever disturbance I caused in their morning. We are going to recite the metaverses. I think some of you may be the first time to join us, so I always give a brief explanation. It's basically a visualization. You don't just say the words. You do your best to take a moment and actually feel it. Even if you don't really feel it, you feel it, you know? And some people say, does it have real effect? And I say, if we go on the internet and I say a nasty word and I send it off on an email to someone, it has effects on the other side of the world. So if we do words of kindness and generosity and healing, why should it not have equal effect as words of anger and greed, right? So it has real power. And people also ask why we chant for difficult people or people who do violence or ugliness. How can we wish them health and peace? And I say, because they're sick. That's why they do those things. If they were not filled with the sickness of greed, anger, and division, they would not be doing those ugly actions. So our words are actually a wish for them to know peace, so they would not be doing those ugly things. And finally, people ask, why do we do it? Wish for ourselves? Well, even the Buddha had to eat, so he had the strength to help others. So we wish for ourselves because we're wishing for all sentient beings. No reason to leave ourselves out. Okay? So we begin with ourselves, and then someone we love, someone in the family, then a friend. I'm going to wish for my cousin who lost his dad this week, and my cousin's in quarantine. I'll be chanting for him. And then we chant for a friend, then a near stranger, someone we barely know, then the difficult person, and then for all sentient beings. Okay, and you can, if you have the words, lovely. If not, you can just follow along. Okay, truly feel this. Okay, first ourselves. May I be free of suffering. Feel the freedom. May I feel safe and still. May I be free of enmity. Enmity means anger and hate. May I be free of enmity. May I be loving, grateful for all of it, even though the stuff we're not grateful for, all of it, right? The whole go board, the whole chessboard. May I be grateful and kind. May I be healthy. And, because we're not healthy all the time, at ease in all my ills. May I be at peace, embracing all conditions, all conditions of life. Okay. Next, for someone we love. He, she, they. People said, can I include more than one person? It's unlimited. There's meta enough to go around. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now for a friend. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now a stranger, near stranger, someone we passed in the street or came to our door for a moment, like that. Okay. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now the one for the difficult person. I had a lovely, someone wrote me this week and said, oh, thank you, Jundo, for the difficult person, but I actually have no difficult people in my life. I can't think of one. And first off, I said, well, you're the first person I've ever met to say that to me, but I think it's wonderful. I said, in that case, can't you think of someone in the newspaper or something who's a little difficult? And she wrote me back. She said, oh, yeah. Okay, that was easy. I thought of some people. Okay, for someone difficult. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. Oh, big time. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay? And next, we will chant for all sentient beings everywhere in the 10 directions, and we will include especially Buddhatron 1000, our first automated Zen teacher who is here today. May we be free of suffering. May we feel safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy and at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. All right. What shall we do next? What shall we do next? Oh, I have an idea. Zazen. A little more zazen, eh? We'll sit. Okay, you can just sit where you are. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows.
All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way not attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non attainable.
Okay, today again was dedicated to all the folks who unfortunately have lost family and friends, or worried about family and friends, are themselves worried about themselves. Everyone who's just worried. This is all dedicated to all of you. There are so many to name. For a moment before just we say bye, a little hello, hello time. If you can't put your microphone on and give it a little hello, hello. Go ahead.
Hi guys.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Let's sit some more now.
You may notice I left the candle burning because this is just the start of our weekend retreat. I'd like to specifically thank the priests who have worked so hard to arrange this. It's all a great experiment, and they've been working, you should see behind the scenes, put this together and to try this and that. If it, hopefully it all works, and if it doesn't, it's all zazen. And I also want to thank the priests who have had to cover for folks, because we have priests who are sick, we have priests who are nursing other people, we have priests who are working. We have one priest who is basically has a small delivery business, and she is the lifeline for people in the middle of nowhere for hundreds of miles around. And but I want to thank the priests who have put this all together, and you will be seeing them in the coming 2 days. So I've left the candle burning there today. Okay. All right, guys. Yippee! See you guys later. Bye-bye. See you guys.
I think we're passing it over to you, Shoka.